a forgotten corner of town, there stood an old factory, its windows shattered and walls covered in graffiti. Locals avoided it, claiming it was cursed. The factory had once been a hub of industry, bustling with workers and producing goods. But one fateful day, a massive fire engulfed the building, trapping several workers inside. They never made it out. Years passed and the factory remained abandoned. My friends and I were always curious about the stories, so one summer evening, we decided to explore it. We thought it would be a thrill, a way to prove we weren't scared of some old building. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we gathered near the factory's entrance. We brought flashlights, just enough to pierce the darkness inside. The air was heavy with the scent of rust and decay. With hesitant steps, we entered. Inside, the factory was a maze of debris and shadows. Broken glass crunched underfoot, and the sound echoed eerily. Graffiti covered the walls, the words and images adding to the unsettling atmosphere. We ventured further, our flashlights revealing glimpses of rusted machinery and forgotten tools. A sudden noise made us freeze, a distant metallic clang that reverberated through the silence. Fear prickled at the back of my neck, but I brushed it off, blaming it on our jangled nerves. We continued, navigating through the darkness. In one corner we found an old office, its furniture overturned and papers strewn across the floor. I spotted a photograph among the debris. It showed a group of workers, smiling and covered in soot, the factory looming behind them. The realization hit me. These were the same workers who had perished in the fire. As we moved deeper into the factory, the temperature seemed to drop, and a sense of unease settled over us. Shadows danced along the walls, playing tricks on our minds. We heard whispers, faint, indistinguishable murmurs that sent a chill down our spines. Then, a voice, clear and distinct, called out, "Help me!" We swung our flashlights wildly, searching for the source. In the dim light, we saw a figure, a silhouette that seemed human but distorted, like a memory etched in smoke. We were frozen in fear as the figure came forward, its shape shifting and warping. With pounding hearts, we turned and fled, following our steps back through the factory. The clangs grew louder, following us, and I could swear I felt a breath on the back of my neck. It was as if the factory itself was alive, angry at our intrusion. We burst out of the building, gasping for breath. The night air felt like a lifeline, and we didn't stop running until we were far away from that cursed place. In the days that followed, our experience haunted us. We learned more about the factory's history, confirming that workers had indeed died in the fire. With the lingering whispers still resonating in our ears, a solitary question persisted in our minds. Were we beckoned by the lingering souls of trapped workers? Or was it the factory's own malevolent presence, forever haunted by its endured tragedy? In the heart of our small town, an abandoned hospital stood in silence. It had served the community for generations, a place of birth, healing, and sometimes farewell. But as newer facilities emerged, the hospital fell into disuse, a relic of the past. Curiosity got the best of us one moonless night, a group of friends seeking adventure. We'd heard rumors of strange occurrences there, but skepticism outweighed fear. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, we entered the decaying structure. The air was thick with the scent of mildew, and the floors creaked beneath our feet. Broken windows let slivers of moonlight pierce through, casting eerie shadows that danced as if guided by unseen hands. Graffiti adorned the walls, vibrant colors, in stark contrast to the building's gloom. We explored cautiously, our footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. Every now and then, a gust of wind would howl, sending a shiver down our spines. A sense of being watched hung heavy, though we assured ourselves it was just our imagination. As we ventured deeper, we stumbled upon the remnants of the maternity ward. A cold breeze brushed past us, carrying with it the faintest sound of a lullaby. It was as if the walls held whispers of newborn cries and maternal comfort, imprinted like fading photographs. In a nearby room, a rusted gurney stood as a silent sentinel. One of us nervously tapped on it, and to our shock, it emitted a mournful groan. The gurney shifted slightly, as if responding to the touch. Panic surged through us, and we fled the room, our heartbeats echoing in the corridors. In the bowels of the hospital, we stumbled upon the morgue. The heavy metal door creaked open, revealing cold steel tables and empty body racks. The air grew colder, and our breath misted in front of us. Against our better judgment, we dared each other to lie on the table. Just for a moment. A chill seeped through our clothes as we lay there, nervously laughing off the growing unease. But then, a shadowy figure materialized in the doorway, a silhouette devoid of features, yet undeniably present. Time seemed to slow as it lingered, an unnatural dread settling over us. With a collective gasp, we bolted upright, stumbling over each other in our haste to escape. The figure didn't pursue, but its presence lingered in the air like a haunting refrain. Back outside, our hearts still racing, we looked back at the hospital. Its windows stared blankly, secrets of the past held within its decaying walls. We exchanged glances, our skepticism shattered, replaced with a shared understanding of the inexplicable. As we ventured back into the world beyond the hospital's decaying walls, a single question lingered in our minds. Had we truly been alone in that silent building? Or was there something else, something unseen, that had been watching us all along? In the outskirts of our town, there stood an abandoned house, a relic of forgotten times. Its weathered facade and broken windows gave it an eerie appearance that sent shivers down the spine. The house had been vacant for years, its history lost to the passage of time, until one chilling night when my friends and I decided to explore it. Armed with flashlights and curiosity, we cautiously entered the decaying building. The air inside was damp and musty, with a hint of decay that hung heavily. Our footsteps echoed through the empty rooms as we ventured further, the only sound in the stillness. As we entered what seemed to be a child's bedroom, a sense of unease settled over us. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and broken toys lay scattered on the floor. Among the toys, we found a weathered porcelain doll, its paint chipped and eyes staring vacantly ahead. A sudden chill ran down my spine, and I turned around to find a figure standing in the doorway. A small girl, no older than 6, stood there, her eyes fixated on us. Her presence was both haunting and inexplicable, as we knew we were alone in the abandoned house. The little girl wore a tattered dress, her hair matted and dirty. She seemed out of place, like a forgotten memory from the past. Her eyes held an intensity that sent a wave of discomfort through me, as if she was trying to convey a message without words. Unable to tear our gazes away from her, we slowly backed out of the room, our heartbeats quickening. As we moved down the hallway, the girl followed, her footsteps silent and measured. We reached the front door and hastily exited the house, the cool night air providing a stark contrast to the eerie atmosphere we had just left behind. Outside, we exchanged bewildered glances, struggling to comprehend what we had witnessed. There was no logical explanation for the presence of the little girl. She seemed like a spectre, a fragment of the past that had somehow lingered in the abandoned house. In the days that followed, the memory of the encounter continued to haunt us. We couldn't shake the feeling that the little girl had been trying to communicate something, a silent plea that remained unanswered. The abandoned house stood as a silent enigma, a place where the boundary between reality and the inexplicable seemed to blur. As time went on, the memory of the little girl began to fade, but the abandoned house remained etched in our minds. It was a place of mystery and unease, a reminder that sometimes the past leaves behind echoes that can still be felt in the present. And as we passed by the abandoned house in the years that followed, we couldn't help but wonder. What had happened to the little girl, and why did she choose to reveal herself to us on that haunting night?